Hello and welcome to another episode of Words with Myself.
We live in a information-rich time. We have access to more information than we can possibly consume in 100 lifetimes at our fingertips. It can feel like there is a new trend or a new thing that must be known or integrated into our lives every day. Any attempt to keep up with the rate of development of information only serves to make existing information fade and everything becomes ephemeral. Nothing is important. You learn one thing for one day and then forget about it the next. Sooner or later, there's going to be something that is new and more demanding of your attention. And the rate of that has grown so significantly, it almost keeps us in this perpetual state of delirium, feeling like we're waking from dreams. Things like lockdown become just a blip in time, and we forget that it ever really happened, even though it was such an important part of everyone's experience. It was an extreme time. Things were very intense, and now it's hardly ever mentioned. It's something that is skipped over as something that happened a little while ago, and it's almost completely forgotten. And these things happen so often that we never have any time to grieve or to come to terms with or to understand or to sit with what it is that happened. And when you get trapped in this cycle of paying attention to all these things and living your life trying to keep up with this system of information, you end up losing anything meaningful or any quality of life. Everything becomes less important because it's all loose. Tomorrow it won't matter. It may be a big deal today, but who's going to care tomorrow or the next day? There's going to be some new scandal or some new tragedy or some new event that happens that everyone suddenly goes to that. And when you live your life attached to this system, you end up experiencing time completely differently. You're not experiencing time as it is. You are experiencing time in an artificial way, because things that you wouldn't have even known about, wouldn't have impacted you, wouldn't have captured your attention or been important in your life are now suddenly constantly happening and constantly changing. And it doesn't matter whether that's political events or spiritual philosophies, for instance. There's some holistic health method that you need to do, like red light therapy or ice baths or something like this. Every day there's something that everyone agrees that we should all be doing this, and we only have a limited amount of time. So it's not like we can do everything, but even if we try to do everything, it just loses its value or its meaning because it's artificial and we don't really have the time to take the time to understand it. To really get to grips with mastering one thing, because there's so much to do. There's so much to learn and to experience that it's no wonder why we feel anxious and depressed and like we have ADHD or whatever it is that people are claiming that they have. We feel like we're sick and we want to express that. And no matter what label you claim, what you're trying to say is, I don't know how to cope. I don't know how to cope with this existence. It's too much. And the reason why we cling to these labels is because they describe something about us that we're not happy with or that we feel doesn't work right. And we don't know how to quite put it into words. And one of the largest players in this is cognitive dissonance. Because we believe so many things that we know aren't true and we just have to accept them, we almost have to pick between choosing to look at life as it really is and living out of complete disharmony with the world, or live in harmony with the world and live at complete disharmony with the natural order. The problem arises when we accept being in harmony with the world and at disharmony with nature, that all of these things arise. We are anxious, depressed, we have all of these illnesses and dysregulation, which is because of that lack of harmony. We end up then supplementing those issues that we know are because of lack of harmony, but as we're not going to harmonize with the natural law and pick the material world, we then decide, okay, well, we have to address that suffering. So they end up prescribing you with things like drugs or medication or distraction or entertainment. And there's all of these things to convince yourself that this is all okay, that it's all fine, and it's okay to live like this, and it's okay that I feel like this. We take this nonchalant, what are you going to do attitude, and we accept eating and drinking poison and being taxed and basically robbed every day, and all of the ridiculous prices of food and just the cost of existing. We accept that our land, this planet that was given to all of us, has been divided up and told to you that it's not yours and that you have to pay to exist here, and that you can't hunt, you can't be self-sufficient, you can't build your house where you want to build it, you don't get land, you don't get anything. You have to live and accept the system that we have provided you. And that's the world, that's the society that we have to accept. If I want to go and get a little bit of land, and, I'm just like, I'm okay. I don't want to be part of this system. I don't want to be a part of your economic wheel. I don't even have an option of separating myself from that. There is no system for opting out. If you opt out, you're homeless. And it's not like you can go and find land. You can't go and, make your own way. You don't have that option. It's not available to you. There is no unconquered land. So we all end up getting funneled and forced into this system, and we have to cooperate. And they convince you that the way out of the system is to just keep buying into the system, and eventually you will be able to escape it. You'll get your own money, you'll be able to be self-sufficient, and sooner or later you can escape. All you have to do is do really well in the system. And for some people, this is fine. This is acceptable. This is the game that they want to play. But for everyone else, we end up feeling completely dysregulated. We are forced out of our natural way of living. We are forced out of who we are and how we feel and how we want to live. That right, that choice has been taken from us. So we instead have to accept living in the system and living in this society and being ill. And you can either accept the societal lies and that you're sick and that you are defective in a way. You're a broken one. You're a broken human. You're defective. You don't work. You've got ADHD, or you're depressed, or you're anxiety, and you need medication, or you need this, or you need that. The problem is you, not this huge thing that we've built and forced you into. Don't look at that. Don't question why that's the problem. You are the problem. Look at everyone else. Everyone else is getting along with their life. It's just you. And that's how they communicate it to you. So you end up feeling like, oh God, I'm terrible. I'm broken. I can't concentrate, and I'm never happy, and, I barely have any energy to get out of bed. But as soon as you zoom out and see life for what it is, you can see that the people who have the problem are the people who are perfectly fine with how things are. And that it's almost bizarre that people are willing to accept that. And the fact that you've been unhappy or anxious or, feeling out of harmony with yourself is actually completely justified and completely normal. Like, there's not something crazy. You're not defective and you're not insane or broken. That you're actually just feeling like this whole mode of living is completely ridiculous. We've gone from working in harmony with nature to produce the food we need, to produce the shelter we need, and the resources came from the land, to a completely different mode where we're attached to these devices that have 6-second clips that people watch all day, and they convince you to work all day and pay taxes, but they won't tell you what they do with the taxes, and you're not allowed to see every transaction. You just have to take it on good faith that they're spending it correctly, but we know that they aren't, and we can see constant examples of deception and corruption, but we can't do anything about it, so we have to accept it. Entertainment is either propaganda or a means of weakening you, and even outside of all this, we have to convince ourselves that we are separate from the world, that we exist outside of the world as something other, when really we're not. And that symbiosis that we had with nature is completely lost. We've stripped that all away. And we remove it so much. Like, even our houses are designed to keep the outside world out. If we feel like trees, plants, animals, or insects were getting in the house, we'd completely melt down and feel like, oh my God, we've got to get rid of it, because we want that separation. Or more accurately, we've been convinced that it is necessity. It's important. We must be separate, and the outside world is dirty and horrible, and it's all full of diseases and things that are going to hurt you. There are people in this world that have never, ever touched grass with their feet. That is absolute insanity. But they went from being carried as a baby to wearing shoes as a toddler to wearing trainers when they grew up, or shoes when they're an adult. And that's it. They're just constantly, perpetually disconnected from the world, even in a physical way, that they never touch the earth. They never connect with their feet or their hands or anything. They don't till the land, so they have no connection to the place that they are existing. And in the West, at least, this is a very common experience. We are so out of disharmony. We are so in this weird state of existing, this mode of being, that we have convinced ourselves that it's normal, that it's acceptable, that it's the right thing to do. Society is convinced that it's right and that its way is the way, but dispels with all the evidence to the contrary, all of the mental health issues, all of the sickness and depression and sadness. And despite all of that, they convince you that the system's perfect and that it's your fault. But it's not. Feeling sick when you are surrounded by things that are making you sick is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to change it, to make yourself aware of it, to reclaim your power and reclaim your connection with nature, with the spiritual world, to reclaim yourself and who you are as a person, to live life in the way that you want to live it, to stop feeding into that system and instead focus on removing yourself from it. Thank you for listening.